This is IGN. An incredible evolution of an already great spin-off series. This is your IGN review of Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection by Casey DeFreitas. It's hard to even know where to start with an RPG as deep as Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection. I reviewed both Monster Hunter Stories in 2017 and Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin in 2021, and maybe unsurprisingly, so much of what I said about the first two carry over into my thoughts on the third. Monster Hunter Stories 3 has so much to do, all of it is rewarding, and I adored every one of the 75 hours I happily sunk into it. Smart changes have also made it easier than ever to dig into all its different systems without watering them down in the process, making for a beautiful package that feels like a logical evolution of an already great series. Twisted Reflection is another turn-based monster collecting RPG spin-off of the long-standing and beloved, well, to me for the last 22 years and counting, Monster Hunter series. Rather than only hunting monsters to turn their parts into cool outfits and weapons, here you'll hunt them with other monsters by your side called monsties, or monsters who are your besties, of course. Like Pokemon, you can have up to 6 monsties in your party and switch between them in battle, but unlike Pokemon, you fight alongside them using the weapons and armor that are iconic to the Monster Hunter series. Twisted Reflection hasn't innovated on this particular formula much, but it's a fun enough one that it really didn't need to. The most immediate changes are to your main character. First, you play as an adult rather than a child this time, which shifts the overall tone towards being somewhat more mature. Second, the protagonist has their own personality and dialogue. Yep, that's right. For the first time in the series, your feline sidekick isn't doing the talking for you. I know the Stories series is generally geared towards a younger audience, but Naviru's over-the-top comedic puns and one-liners fit for a children's show were always just a little too much in the first two games. Your new Palico, Rudy, is much more sensible and helpful, and he's still humorous without acting like an over-the-top cartoon mascot. Your hero isn't just some nobody either. They're a full-fledged ace rider and captain of the Rangers, basically an environmentalist group that focuses on research and protecting the ecosystems in the Kingdom of Azuria. This premise works so well with the actual gameplay mechanics, which have you taking out invasive species and reintroducing endangered species to the ecosystem. Oh, and you are also the princess/prince of your kingdom. A big benefit of being an ace rider from the very beginning is that you start with a fully grown Rathalos as your partner, which means you immediately have the ability to fly around Twisted Reflection's semi-open world. Flying is more like gliding, but it works well thanks to a generous number of updrafts around the map and certain high places you can fast travel to whenever you want. Riding your monsties around is just plain fun in general, and switching between them while riding is completely seamless. Each monster can have multiple riding actions too, including the aforementioned flying and things like swimming or climbing. There are also less movement-oriented options like roaring, which stuns monsters in the overworld so you can ride right by them, and breath attacks, which can knock monsters over or out of the air. Having multiple riding actions per monster made it much easier to put together a team so I could explore fully, even early on. It's a big improvement over Stories 2, where I felt pigeonholed into picking monsters based primarily on riding actions. The battle system in Twisted Reflection is much more intricate than a lot of other turn-based RPGs I've played. Monsters have 3 attack types, power, speed, and technical, that work like rock, paper, scissors, plus elemental weaknesses and resistances on top of that. Your rider then also has 3 weapon damage types across 6 weapons to choose from, all of which have different mechanics. Monster parts can be targeted individually and are weak to specific weapon damage types, and you can switch freely between 3 weapons in battle in order to best exploit those weaknesses. It sounds like a lot, but the variety I knew I'd encounter encouraged me to always have a spread of upgraded weapons on hand, which kept battles fresh throughout. Twisted Reflection's story and exploration are the driving forces that introduce mechanics and locations to you, but the loop of den diving, hunting, and upgrading is where it really shines. I loved every step of my obsessive monstie collecting journey in Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection. It smooths over the mild frustrations and complaints I had with its already great predecessors, leaving only a finely tuned loop of hunting, hatching, restoring, and upgrading that perfectly feeds into itself every step of the way. The joy of finding a new, cool monster, figuring out how to build its stats and skills to best fit it into my team, and finally riding off into the sunset with it is unmatched. Twisted Reflection shines as another excellent spin-off of one of my favorite series, but it also just stands as a fantastic monster collecting RPG all on its own. Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection's IGN score? 9 out of 10. Thanks for listening to IGN. My name is Tony Jackson, and for the latest updates and to read the full review of Monster Hunter Stories 3, visit us at IGN.com.
Spoken Layer.